Yo, what up guys? Here it is. The information we have so far for the DK reworks coming in the War Within expansion. I do believe there's reason to be excited. I know you've been burned by that in the past, and so have I, by the way. Like, I just took a 6-month break. But it reminds me a lot of the Ret and the DH rework, where they were, yes, tremendously overpowered right after the rework came in, but then their survivability, their sustained damage, their utility, the fluidity of their class, and the accessibility of their talents were all so much better that even after the nerfs came in, the class itself still felt and played so much better. So I expect something very similar with what I'm reading on the screen right here. Now, this isn't just like false promises like, oh, we're going to do something with diseases. Like, the talents are right here, and they're in the War Within talent calculator as well. So they at least are implementing these things now as we speak. So feel free to attack it with cautious optimism or even pessimism if you want to. But I'm going to be optimistic about War Within because these talents do look really, really wild. So, okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and highlight them one by one and talk about them and talk about what they mean to me and the spec and the class and everything. Just talk through them. So going to be a lot of words in this video. If that's not really your thing, then this video probably isn't really your thing, but sorry about that. Here we go. Okay, so subduing grasp, we start off with a very simple one. This is just 4% damage reduction on grip. You're going to be gripping people all the time. It's going to give you 4% damage reduction. It's going to be like about half uptime. It is so basic and so simple. Alone, this looks like it won't change anything. But when you take all of the different things that are making us tankier and put them all together, then everything counts. So this is just par for the course with that. It is completely passive and completely baked into what you do. So you don't even have to think about it. You're just going to take less damage when you grip people. But then going on to osmosis, we already have a big improvement because AMS increases healing done to you by 25%. That's your own death strikes and of course all of your healers healing. That makes that a huge rebound button. And when you take some of the other things that we're getting, I don't think AMS will just get vaporized in one global anymore, which means, and it doesn't now either in Dragonflight Season 4 as of recording this, but that's because our health pools are so high at the end of the expansion. But I think even like Season 2, maybe even as early as Season 1 of the next expansion, these changes will help AMS persist, which will give us a huge rebound button, which we could definitely need. So that's very cool. And again, just passive. It's baked into AMS. You press it, you go up in health. Congratulations. Null Magic is insane. 15% damage reduction. That will help your AMS stay on, won't it? And harmful magic effects reduced by 35%. That's affects so many different classes and specs, and that is a huge amount to do it by. This is obviously incredibly impactful. If it does hit a little bit of a PvP modifier nerf, which I could see happening, then I think 10% and 25% would be really good numbers for this one. Maybe look, I don't have access to test all these things, but I really hope they don't just make it 2%, right? Like completely gut it. This would be a really cool way to, yes, give us some anti-caster nature without having it be Spell Warden, which makes them unable to play the game against anyone. Like, Null Magic says, all right, maybe you don't go DK the entire game, every game, right? Because in some parts of this expansion, DK was definitely the target you would go. But it also doesn't mean if you hit the DK with anything, even a dot, that you get spell wardened and then you can't attack anybody because your haste is reduced so much, right? So this is a better way of implementing that for sure. I'm assuming it'll take a PvP mod nerf, but I don't think it should be that severe. But yeah, obviously this is insane. Now it is on a choice node with vestigial shell. And this is, it seems really hard to give up Null Magic, but this is a really cool button because AoE AMS is pretty good for survivability. Fantastic for survivability in the sense that it can immune traps and fears and polymorphs on your healer to keep him out of CC and healing you more. But it can also make your goes extremely impactful. Think about DH, DK, Preservation. All three of you are going to be in the fray. The Preservation has an AoE Fire Breath. Your DH has a Chaos Nova. You gripped everybody in. And you start doing unlimited damage, and then you drop an AMS. And now all of you are immune to all magical CC. Wow. That's going to make your go very difficult to deal with. I don't really like the idea of Frost getting even more reason to just go in and press every defensive and offensive at the same time, but a Frost rework is coming. They mentioned at the bottom of this, so I think that, sorry, I'm gonna stretch out my back here. I think that we have reason to believe that Frost will change a bit from that playstyle. I know it hasn't changed in 7 years, but please just let me believe, because I need it. Okay. Ice Prison. There we go. So I have to go out on a limb here. It would be very uninteresting if I was just playing it safe with every talent, so I'm not going to play it safe with this one. I believe this talent is actually bad. I don't even think you'll really choose it almost ever. Yes, you get a 4-second root, but you have a drawback, and generally drawbacks on talents, and you have to have the drawback of using a talent point, is a problem, and this is a huge drawback. Chains of Ice is an amazing button to press all the time on multiple people. So giving it a 12-second cooldown is a big cooldown. Like, that is not a joke. And if they could get out of your chains, they could get out of the root too. So let's say you press chains and then he gets out of the root with a root break. Maybe not freedom, maybe just a regular root break. Then generally you would want to chains him again. But now your chains is on a 12-second cooldown. So yes, sometimes, some places, a root is going to be better. And maybe you will deal with the 12-second cooldown, but I believe this is a never choose. Again, going out on a limb. If I'm wrong, then this exact portion of this video will look dumb, but that's why it's a prediction. Does not look good to me. But the rest of these things do. Rune Protection is just sort of what like the Pally got, if you remember. They got like some armor here, some stamina there. Chance to be critically struck is reduced by 3%. Armor is increased. So armor for Fizdam, that's kind of nice because we lost armor from the armor normalization that they did. So getting a little bit more Fizdam back, dam reduct back is good. And the critical strike thing is fine. I mean, these are just really basic survivability talents. They add up with all the survivability talents to make a pretty complete package. Chains of Ice and AMS are now baseline, freeing up more talent points. Cool. This is huge, but it's not huge for Unholy because you would still always use Fallen and you don't use one-handed. Though dual wield Unholy would be really cool if you could use Stone Skin and Fallen Crusader. In fact, you would almost lose nothing off of that. I wonder if they will put that back in the game, because right now you can't even equip two one-handed weapons, I think, as Unholy. Anyway, this is a big Frost change. This is a huge Frost change. Think about this right now. Wow, it's just so crazy. I almost have to like stop and just think about it for a second. You could get Rune of the Stone Skin Gargoyle, Rune of the Fallen Crusader, and then Razor Ice Rune from your talent tree. So that means you have 3 Rune Forges, and then you can buff them all with Unholy Bond, which, as we'll see later, is now just a 1 talent point. So of course you're going to get it. Which means all 3 of those Rune Forges get 20% more value. So that's 7% stam and strength from Stone Skin Gargoyle, which you can now put on one-handers. 18% strength on proc from Fallen Crusader, and a huge, like 8% or 7% heal, I think it is. How big is the heal on Fallen Crusader? It's going to be with, it's going to be big. And then you get Razor Ice at 18% still too. So what's crazy is the Stone Skin Gargoyle stam buff and perma strength buff is going to be valuable because it's going to make your health higher, which is going to make all your survivability better. That all scales with maximum health, including the proc that you get from Fallen Crusader, which you can now run at the same time. That's cool. That is really good for dual wield. I know dual wield has been terrible forever, but look, things have to eventually change. They have to. I mean, this is a rework, so Ret changed with their rework. They sure did, right? They played the same weird way for a long time, and then they got reworked, and now they have all of these new tools. So maybe this is finally the chance for dual wield sustained Frost to have merit. But yeah, no, that's just good. That's just good as a thing, because they're doing a lot of work with rune forging. First of all, this is being removed, which does not affect us in any way as a PvPer. Rune of Hysteria is trash in PvP. Empower Rune Weapon. This is crazy, but remember, it's nerfed by 66% in PvP, and the reason they're removing it is because Unholy and Frost, our resource gen is so overdoing it at some point, and then, you know, like, you just have this flood of resources. It doesn't feel good, and it's already, again, it's nerfed by 66% in PvP, so saying goodbye to that is not a problem at all with all this other stuff that we're getting. So actually, we're getting rid of things that are nerfed and adding things that haven't been nerfed yet. So that's just good for us. An A-Bomb Limb, these things, that's more rune generation. It's not giving these buffs anymore. Oh, I hope you can still see that. Let me scroll up here. A-Bomb Limb is no longer granting these rune generation and runic power generation effects, which is fine. A-Bomb Limb, again, is nerfed for us in PvP as well, so it's really not that big a deal at all, and our rune gen is completely fine. But now you get the massive unholy rune, Rune of the Apocalypse, where they are quadrupling or septupling the effect of every single thing on the Rune Forge. The healing reduction multiplied by 5. The damage dealt to the caster with Famine is 2.5 times stronger. 500% increase on the Pestilence damage, and the damage taken is increased by a lot, and also the duration is increased by a lot. So that means every effect on here, it goes crazy. You're going to be doing more damage, taking less damage, doing way more damage with the dot, which might scale with other dot modifiers in the Unholy tree. We don't know yet. And you're going to have this insane MS effect as Unholy. Wow. Wow, what a Rune Forge. I do believe if these, I mean, it was not ever runnable, but if you multiply everything by 5 as the effects go, I think it becomes perma. You'll always take Rune of the Apocalypse as Unholy. So what a crazy change. Wow. Okay, gotta make sure I'm scrolling down for you. So Cleaving Strikes now retains bonus effects. I don't think PvEers care about this, but man, we do. That is great for Frost and great for Unholy. You can just cleave. You can cleave with your spenders, even as you're moving for a while. Wow. IBF gets IBF cooldown reduction passively, so that's another free talent and just a really good effect for you. Veteran of the Third War, Icy Talents, and Unholy Bond all go from 1, so 2 rank talents to 1. So they're the same effect overall, but you only have to invest 1 talent point. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about like quality of life for all of these things, accessibility of talents. If that happens, you get the same effects you were getting, but you free up talents. And with all these other things becoming passive, you free up even more talents, which means you can really access new powerful things while losing nothing at all. So that's great. Why would that not be great? Of course that's great. Simulation just becomes more applicable in PvP for sure. The runic power gen, like I said, there are so many different sources of runic power gen and resource gen. You didn't need any of them. Now you just get a shorter cooldown zone, which of course you could have value in that. You just get more zone value. Which is even more anti-caster stuff, so wow for us. Suppression, I don't think this is super relevant. That is a PvE thing mostly. I think area of effect effects are very prominent in PvP, but I'm not sure if 6% is that much. So I don't think this is super impactful, but you're going to have so many talent points free. Maybe you end up using it to take less Bladestorm damage. I don't know. This is cool, actually. Blood Scent Leech. Once again, I'm going to scroll this down for you. Blood Scent Leech. I actually use this talent, especially against pet classes like BM and Demo, because you do so much extra pad damage, and it heals you because Leech takes in the pad damage that you do and heals as a percentage of that. So if you just buff this up to 5% and, like I said, free up a bunch of talents, I think you'll be able to choose this almost all the time. And that just gives you even more sustainability. You see how these survivability buffs are starting to rack up and rack up. This one's crazy. Here's a survivability buff. Now Blood Draw gives you a little heal, but then it reduces your damage taken, so it gives you a wall at that point, and then it reduces Death Strike costs, so now you can just spam Death Strike. And it's only one talent point. So even things that are like, all right, well, it's a 10% wall, and yeah, it reduces your Death Strike cost. We have a ton of resource gen. Well, your resource gen isn't going to be quite as crazy with all these changes. And it's only 1 talent point that you have to invest. So you could really see yourself just getting another save with, and let's say you AMS low, and then you have Death Strikes that are now buffed by your AMS from the AMS healing increased talent, and you have a 10% wall. You have that huge rebound in tough situations. That's good, right? Okay, this is just moving unholy ground. Sack Pact is now choice node with an Enfeeble. Enfeeble is nerfed in PvP and Sack Pact isn't, so you might actually choose the heal. But that's going to be hard to tell ahead of time. It's just another thing that's happening. Runic Attenuation is just moving. Soul Reaper is moving as well. I love this typo, Unholy Blonde. Soul Reaper moving is not impactful to us because we never choose it anyway. But there is a Soul Reaper change coming in War Within, where it now explodes if they reach a threshold, huh? We've been asking that forever. So now this matters too. Oh my god, that matters too. Now we're going to go Soul Reaper by default because we have a more applicable execute. And it's in a more applicable part on your talent tree. Wow, dude. Wow, dude. Wow. That's crazy. That's actually so crazy. These are all just passive buffs that are all being removed, which frees up even more talents for more cool things. And that is the DK tree. So you can see survivability, absolutely prioritized. Your utility is about the same, although you get that AMS, AoE AMS, which is crazy utility. But DK utility has always been unpeelable, difficult to shake, constant pressure to force people behind pillars and running away, and grip chains, right? Grip chains, absolutely so much utility there. Now, of course, is that more utility than Paladin? No. But if we have all of these survivability buffs, and we have big AMS, and we have rebound heals, and we have just even more ways of staying alive when we're staying in, that is our utility. Because right now already in Dragonflight Season 4, Unholy Pressure is pretty debilitating to deal with. So if we are just stronger, more oppressive, tankier, we will continue doing that in every possible way. For Frost, we have to wait for the Frost rework, but it loves all of those things too, as long as it can get the dual wield build working, right? Sustain doesn't matter for specs that just do an AoE go and then run away. So it is going to be entirely based around what they do with the Frost rework. But there is something hidden in there. Like I said, that dual wield change. That can't be a change for anything else. Stone Skin Gargoyle can be Runeforged on one-handed weapons. This is a huge survivability and sustained damage buff. It's completely passive, health and strength. And I think it's even armor. So you stacks with that armor talent and you're going to get a lot more armor. So that's physical damage reduction with all the AMS value you're getting. This is only for dual wield Frost. So if they also rework the Frost DK talents to have more on-demand pressure always, then dual-wield Frost comes out of nowhere and gets benefit from everything that I just said Unholy gets benefit from. Because Unholy gets benefit from those things not because it has diseases or because it has a pet, but because it can stay in. Of course, Rune of the Apocalypse you can't use, but you're going to use Stone Skin, Fallen Crusader, and Razor Eyes. Anyway, there you go. That's the main DK. Yes, it's extremely good. Of course it's extremely good. We just have to see what they do with Frost and see if most of these things stay at their current value, or if they get oppressive PvP mods. There's nothing I can do about that, but we'll see. And now we're going to go on to Unholy. These are all awesome. Like literally everything here is good. I'm dead serious, because what they did is they remember that line of talents. I'm holding my hand, like signifying the left. And I don't think it's going to be on the left. It's going to be on your right. Anyway, but maybe you can visualize what I'm thinking of. There's that line of talent that goes through Bursting Swords and is Epidemic, and then Bursting Swords, and then Worthless Talent, right? So it's like Worthless Talent, Bursting Swords, Worthless, right? But you have to go down it because you want Bursting Swords. That's fixed. And so many other things like that are fixed. So let's take a look. Doom Bidding. Consuming Sudden Doom calls the matches to the dead. This is now a choice node with Gargoyle. Better in every way. I know Gargoyle is so fun and he's scary and, you know, we've had him since the beginning and you always want him to be good, but it's a long cooldown button, which means it's only going to promote all-in playstyles where you press everything and they press everything and then you don't have it for 3 minutes, right? Sudden Doom spawning a Magus is ridiculous. You have so many Sudden Doom procs. You have any idea how valuable this makes haste, by the way, for Unholy next expansion. Holy shit. I mean, holy haste is like so insanely valuable because you're going to get the Sudden Doom procs, which are going to give you a free big death coil, burst wounds, and give you a Magus. And the Magus are just going to stack up and start cleaving everybody. Wow. Yes, this talent, you're always going to choose the Magus of the Dead version instead of the Gargoyle because it is sustain, it is always applicable, it is always useful, and they are going to ramp up Sudden Dooms and Magus of the Dead subsequently like crazy. Holy cow. Okay, there's just a movement. Raise A-Bomb is back. Holy cow. I'm saying holy cow too many times, but you know, it's just how I feel when I read these things. A-Bomb is back. A-Bomb is better than Army. I told them to make it a choice node originally. They didn't make it a choice node. They made it a like a upgrade node, but that's also okay because we're freeing up some talents. I looked at the talent calculator. You absolutely can get Raise A-Bomb. He is an AoE pullout for all stealthies. He gets you combat against the rogues and pulls out the rogues as well. He applies your disease immediately, baked into the A-Bomb Global. He applies wounds, of which we love to burst, because, man, they do a lot of things, right? So he applies the wounds for more damage. He applies the diseases. He does damage himself, and he pulls out stealthies. Utility, damage, more utility, because necrotic wounds and necrotic wounds healing. He's an ultimate button on a 90-second cooldown. It's better than Army in every possible way. You will grab this. Okay, Foul Infections. This is just up there instead of Epidemic. Now your diseases do more damage and crit more, which means they do 10% more damage plus about 2.5% more damage because of the nerf of crit in PvP. So 12.5% more disease damage instead of Epidemic. Epidemic we press 0 times in PvP, but our disease is doing 12.5% more damage we would always get used for. That's just a good change. Noticing a pattern? Everything's good. Magus of the Dead fires AoE. This is your tier set. With all the Maguses that you will have, you're going to want them to cleave in any situation where people are going to get cleaved. So if you're doing Grip Blind Goes, they're going to get cleaved. If you're doing a Grip Blind Nova, if you're doing a Grip Blind Dragon Go, if you are just fighting in a full melee lobby and solo shuffle, you are going to use Menacing Magus. You're going to have so many and they're all going to be cleaving. Wow. Passive on Epidemic and Outbreak. That is so nice for us. Sudden Doom is now changed a little bit. It makes your Death Coil crit, which is not as good in PvP, but it's such a huge chunk of damage that having it do 50% more guaranteed is just awesome. And remember, we never use crit rating in PvP. So we're not munching any of the crit. Like, let's say you had 40% crit. Making it a guaranteed crit is not as valuable as if you had 0% crit, because it wasn't going to crit before, and now it does, making it always do 50% more damage than it would have. So the fact that we use so little crit chance in PvP actually makes that pretty okay, and it's free because it's just baking it into Sudden Doom. Wow. Now it's no longer an RPPM proc. All you need to know about this is auto attacks proc it, 25% chance with Battle Lock Protection, meaning you're going to get a lot of procs. They're going to be very reliable, and the faster your auto attacks hit, the more chances you have to proc them, right? So you auto attack, you get a proc, your Battle Lock Protection goes away, then you need to start auto attacking more to keep ramping up that Battle Lock Protection. You get another proc and you keep procking like that. And Sudden Doom is so impactful that you are going to want to proc that as much as possible. Here is the entire list of all of those cooldown reductions being baked in to those cooldowns now. So you don't have to grab those talents, which is so cool because again, you're freeing up basic quality of life talents for more impactful changes to the class. So cool. The Festermite change is a little foreign to me because I have not been looking at the War Within stuff until recently. So functioning like Iron Fur, this might be the first time where I defer. I have to figure out, I need to get on like the beta or alpha and see what this actually means. Or you can tell me in the comments what that actually means. Because right now Festermite does that, right? So you build up stacks, it doesn't refresh duration. Isn't that what Iron Fur does? You stack up Iron Fur, buffing it intensity, but that you don't extend the duration and then it all falls off. And you have to start stacking again. That's how Festermite already acts, I thought. You'd have to tell me in the comments what's different about that. I'm interested to know. Okay, and finally, we have Even Fever, no longer a choice, which means you get both of them, which means you are going to get Bursting Swords Dam, pad dam from that, and even fever, which also now affects frost fever and blood plague, which is just going to increase your pad damage even more, which then compounds with the disease damage buff that you get instead of epidemic on that row. And that is just disease buff, disease buff, disease buff, and pad. And Unholy is loving that. Like, wow. And then Unholy Blight is moved. And these talents that don't matter, especially replenishing wounds, Army of the Damned is baked in. Those things are gone. So every single change for Unholy gives you more accessibility to better talents, bakes in important effects into already existing things, makes things passive, or gives you really cool new options like multiple Magus and Raise A-Bomb being backed, and just more disease damage, and Super Strain getting a huge juice. Now it works with Plaguebringer and even Fever. Imagine how much disease damage you're going to have. I'm just getting excited thinking about it. Oh my god. Okay. So there's one more thing, and I think it's at the bottom, so I have to scroll all the way down. I hope it's here. Look at all these changes. This expansion is going to be fun. I can't wait. And then Fury. Right. So there is something. It's either going to be, oh my god, there's so many things. Oh, okay, I'm on the next one. So there was something, I might have to look for it, like, maybe it's not here, dang. There's something they said where the Frost and the Blood rework are on the way, and there's some in-progress talents that are going to be used to give even more disease interactions. So not only would I play Unholy in this state and love it, apparently Unholy is getting even more interactions with the thing that is the most valuable for us in PvP setting right now. And Frost and Blood are promised to rework. Now, this is where I say once again, I understand if you are worried about Frost, because it has been the same garbage to play spec for 7 years. But what they just did with the base tree and Unholy is so aware from them, like so in the know, that I have to give one more chance, one more belief that that same idea where they're like, okay, they like this, they don't like that, this doesn't work, they never want that talent, so let's remove it so we can get something better. If they do that with Frost, in addition to the changes they've already made, so it's not like they have to start from scratch, those baseline DK talents were good for Frost. They were, as long as Frost has some sustain built in with this rework. Now remember, this all, so let me do this. Finally we get here. Yeah, this is gonna be a long video with a lot of talking. I'm not even gonna edit it, sorry. You're just gonna have to deal, I'm sorry. This all compounds now with the War Within hero talents. Now, when these first came out, I didn't care at all. I was laughing at them because the inherent design of DK was so against what these were trying to do. It almost looked like Frost was just going to do the same disgusting AoE go and then just run away on a horse. And Unholy was like, yeah, we're good with it. But Unholy was suffering because its talents were so unfun because of all those things. I remember the list here. We can now show it. This row right here. This row before was garbage, fine, garbage, garbage. Now it's amazing, 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 amazing. I'm not making that up. Foul Infections is just disease down. Unholy Blight is good with your diseases, and we really want to use it. Bursting Sores is guaranteed auto pick, and Even Fever, if it wasn't Bursting Sores being the guaranteed auto pick, it would be Even Fever being the guaranteed auto pick. Now you get them all at once. So before, yes, was I very excited for these things? No, I was just laughing at the fact that somebody got it, or Mograine got a D&D and moving, and we didn't. I was just laughing at that, right? But when you take in this rework of the base DK, oh, look at all those changes. And now the Unholy, and we're going to get even more. Look, that's the under construction. That's going to have something to do with diseases, they said. This is unbelievable. I mean, this is so much content, all building towards the fluidity, the playstyle, the sustainability, the fun, the engagements, the interactions, the synergies of our class. Now I'm excited for Rider of the Apocalypse. Now I'm excited for Deathbringer. Now I'm excited for San Lin. I mean, talk about sustain, rot, survivability, go unholy blood, and amplify that up to the moon. I'm not gonna go over every single talent here because I kind of missed it. I missed the excitement on that, right? These have been out for a while. But when you look at them, Death Coil turns Scorch Strike into Vampiric Strike, which heals you, increases your haste. Haste is a sustainability stat because it allows you to get more things off while you have high uptime. And healing you is sustainability because it heals you, right? And all of these function with that, right? Absorb Shield. You get more disease damage. In fact, this is consuming the disease, which you can immediately reapply to get a huge chunk of damage. So you're rotting them, then you burst them. Then you're rotting them, then you burst them, right? There's another one in here. There you go. This increases the effectiveness of that basic effect. So you get more haste and more healing, right? And it gives you Vampiric Strike now for the entire duration of Dark Transformation. So now you can on demand get that extra healing, get that extra sustain, get that extra haste. I mean, again, yeah, those are all great things. They were not exciting when Unholy was not built right and Frost was the abomination that it was. But now it looks like that's finally not going to be the case. And Frost could be based around these Deathbringer 30-second goes with the short cooldown Reaper's Mark. You could see right here. I knew it was here. So 30-second cooldown reduction, 1 minute minus 30 seconds is 30 seconds. So you could have Ice Cap 30-second goes with dual wield. That's what I'm dreaming for. Rider is probably the go in, go out, go in, go out. But Deathbringer has a chance to be the I'm going to always do damage to you Frost that Legion loved so much. Like I said, I don't want to go over I kind of missed these. So now I want, when it gets closer, like everything's done, the Frost rework is in, I want to make another video where I'm like, these are the talent builds that I'm going to use in War Within. But, you know, I haven't made YouTube videos in a while and I'm rusty and I'm talking too much. So when the Frost rework comes in, you have my promise. I will make a video that highlights some preliminary amazing talent builds to you, for you to get excited. I'll use this talent calculator right here for you to get excited about in War Within that's coming out faster than you think. So that's it. Sorry, talked your ear off. I know. Can't wait to play this expansion with you guys. Literally now. GG's. See you on the next one.